Morning, everyone. Jeff Nowak from Northern Michigan Archery. I'm here with my almost brand new Phil Grable SST, built by Don Poppy. He shipped me this bow with a Hoyt flipper, you can see it there, and a burger button. Both tried and true, cream of the crop. That stuff works great. I wanted to mess with things because that's what I do. I want to shoot this bow off the shelf, but I like to tune. I don't just put a rug, put a rest, go to town, be like, well, it's pretty good. I want perfect. I want repeatable accuracy. This bow is dead nuts on. No complaints. We're also in the last, 9 days before gun season starts. So right now is prime time for archery. And I was a little nervous about switching out my rest, but thinking about it logically, if you record your numbers and you set up your new rest just like your old rest was set up with all of your information, just telegraphing into the new setup, you'll be fine. Shoot arrows to confirm, of course, but just follow the math, you'll be okay. So that being said, what I'm putting on here is basically an adjustable side plate, got lots of colors. And the first thing we need to do is we need to note two measurements. The first one is how far out the plate is. And I know we have other things at work here, but the plate for practical purposes is the back of or the front of this Hoyt flipper rest and my burger button plunger sticking out. See what I mean? So if we were to replace this with a piece of leather, that's the thickness of leather I would need. I think it's difficult to achieve unless you have a ton of leather and tools to cut and everything. So here's what we're going to do. The new adjustable plate will sit in the burger button's place. So right now we're just looking at height, right? So this plate is a little bit shorter. My orange plate is a little bit shorter than the back of the Hoyt flipper. And then we have the little Velcro hook and loop, right? And that's going to stick on the plate. And now we are out there. It's hard for you to see, but we are out there where the surface of my hook and loop, my Velcro, is going to be the same build out as this button, right? So the distance from the gray riser to the white thing will be just about the same with the new orange plate and the Velcro. So we know that. It's your measurement number one is where this plate is. We'll call this your plate, right? And you can measure it. You can do calipers to measure how far it sticks out, or just a little square so you can estimate it, but record it, write it down. The other thing you want to do is your knock point indicators. And you guys have heard me preach before with knock point indicators, you need two. I'm going to do some backdrop here with my white shirt, okay? So you have two knock point indicators, one below the arrow knock, one above the arrow knock. You must do that. And here's why. When you draw that bow back with your big old meaty fingers, right, and you release the string, this string moves forward not like a perfect V shape correcting itself to a perfect inline string. It's going through the air like this, right? It's all over the place. If you don't have a knock point indicator on each side of your arrow knock to capture that knock, when you release your string, that arrow will try to flop around. It can't because you have one arrow knock, right? So it's going to scoot down the string. You guys are like, well, I don't have any trouble, but if you look at their string, you'll see shiny servings beneath their knock point indicator. That's just telling you that the arrow is sliding down, and that affects your shot. The other telltale is guys who use conventional rugs, they will have incredible amount of wear right here. Even though they're tuned with a square and everything's good, they'll have a big old groove from their feathers. And they'll be like, well, I have to replace that every year. Man, I've got bows that I've shot thousands, 2,000, 3,000 arrows through. They have the original rug that have no wear, other than just the wear from the arrow sitting on it, right? But that's to be expected because I use two knock point indicators and that arrow has nowhere to go. It can't slide down the string when you release, okay? So I said all that just to tell you that you need to record the measurements on the string for both knock point indicators. This is just a basic square. And instead of numbers, I put some tape on it. Masking tape with a little pen mark. I'm not going to try to remember numbers. I'm just going to write down a little pen scribe on there. So you put this on here. So it's just touching the flipper, right? Just gentle, like the arrow would be when you shoot, right? So right about there is where it would be at. Now come back here and look, and you'll see, rolling here, you see my mark, okay? We have the line and the X. The line indicates the bottom of the top knock point indicator. The X is where the space is, and that's where the arrow knock will clip onto the string. Follow me? No numbers. Just put some scribbles on there so you know. When we set up to shoot off the shelf, our marks are going to be a lot lower, so we'll have to make adjustments. But now that we know what that number is, it's not a big deal. So here we go. We've got our thing recorded. We'll take off our burger button. Easy breezy, and I hope this white rest peels off without a whole bunch of residue. But even if it does leave some adhesive behind, it's okay. Its job is not to peel off easy. This adhesive's job is to stick on good. And we lucked out. Got that thing off without anything left behind. Just dust, right? Lint from shooting. So, here's our bolt. We'll take off a little machine screw. And I'm selling these things. This is not why I'm making the video. This is just a fun video because there's not a lot of real, well, I was going to say well thought out, but I don't believe that I'm well thought out either. But this is informational. This is going to give you some very basic stuff that you can use to tune your bow. So we'll take, I got these little, like 8 different colors or something here. I had them made and had this little bolt drilled, tapped, machined, threads chased all the way up to the head of the bolt. You take your little jam nut. And you need a jam nut on this. The jam nut locks down against the riser so that you can tune your bow, set your measurements, and then lock that jam nut down, and your measurements won't change. Here we go. So we'll feed it through. I don't know the thread pitch and count, but it's universal. If you have a target plunger hole or a hole drilled in your riser, whether it's a Wharf riser from a compound bow or just about any American, I don't even know if it's American, I would say, yeah, I guess it would have to be American because I don't know what they do in Europe for pitch sizes. So, but what I'm trying to say is if you have a hole drilled, this thing's going to fit it. Unless you're in another country, your bow is manufactured in another country, right? So I went too far. We'll leave it right there. You can see it. Then we'll take Allen wrench, little screw. You're set up. Little plate has a chamfer cut on it to accommodate that pan head screw. Flip the whole works over. Drop it in. An advantage to an adjustable plate is that, generally speaking, if you're going to adjust how your arrow is hitting left or right of center on the target, you need to do that by changing your tip weight, your arrow spine. You can do that by your brace height. Changing your brace height adds or subtracts weight from your draw cycle. Or you can start trimming leather and building your own plate. Trial and error takes a long time. So the idea of this thing is you can adjust it on the fly, in the field, at the range. You can suck it in tight, right? Or you can move it out to wherever you need to be. Some of these Wharf bows, guys are using compound bow risers to build recurve bows, and they're the window is way big to accommodate their whisker biscuits and these drop away rests and things you used to have when the riser belonged to a compound bow. Traditional bows, we don't need a whole lot. So you got extra bolt, but that's not a big deal. So here's what we'll do. We got our plate in there, screwed in to the brass bolt. We take our little Velcro pad, and this all comes with it. You don't have to cut nothing. A little circle. Put it right on there. I like it. Stuck it on there good. See? Easy breezy. Now, one thing you need to know is for your rug, you don't need anything fancy at all. You don't. And you can use Bear Archery sells this bear rug rest, right? And it's really cool, like velour material. It's lofty. This is just a scrap piece. You could use that on here if you wanted to. I was going to use that. This is probably a superior product, but it's brown. I got a thing against brown. I don't want brown on my bow. Brown bows have been around forever. I like a little color, or at least not brown. Got some black Velcro. This is just ordinary. I usually buy it by the spool, but they didn't have spool, so I got this stuff here. So this is just Velcro. They call it fasteners, made by Scotch, whatever. So that will go on my rest. Okay. Now, when you knock an arrow, we're going to do this without flipping the phone over. You knock an arrow on here. I'm going to estimate where I think the arrow is going to be. You want to make sure that you put your Velcro rug in a spot that the arrow is going to hit, because your arrow is not at a 90-degree angle to the string, meaning when your arrow goes across the rest this way, it's not going to lay flat. It's going to be tipped up a little tiny bit, okay? So you want to make sure that you place your Velcro so it supports the arrow. If you put it too far to the rear, the arrow may not touch it. So that's what I'm doing here. It's just seeing how it aligns. So I'm going to go almost center, maybe a little bit my way of center, string side of center. And these are just Velcro squares, and I cut one kind of to fit. So I'm going to flip this thing around off camera. I'm going to stick it on there, just because Velcros, man, they got some good adhesive, and it's kind of a one and done. You don't get it back. And I want to make sure I get it on there just the way I want it. So I'm going to do this here where I can see it. Right there. That's where I want it. See what I did? I just stuck it on there. And it's okay to have a crack here. That little void, that little gap. Okay? That will, there's no harm in that. You don't say, well, we need to belt. You know, some guys will say, well, I put a little toothpick under there and it'll raise it up. You don't need to. You don't need to do any of that stuff. You don't need a bump or a hump or a toothpick or a matchstick or whatever. It's absolutely unnecessary to create a bump in your shelf. A flat shelf will shoot just fine. And here's the reason why. When you tune your bow and you set it up properly, and we'll show you with an arrow in a minute, but when you release, that arrow is going to pick up off the shelf just a little tiny bit because of the way you set your knock point indicators. So upon release, that arrow isn't grinding down on that rug. It's actually lifting off the rug in a straight line, and you'll see. So, two measurements, right? We're not worried about this measurement for our height yet because we kind of know what it's going to be. But we do want to check. We do want to check our knock point indicators. We'll put my square back on here, and just kind of wiggle it around on there until it's. You want it touching but not tight. Does that make sense? So we lucked out here, and here's why. Using 2 knock point indicators, my lower knock point indicator is actually going to work perfectly as my new upper knock point indicator. So we can get rid of this one up here, but I'm not going to do that because it's hard to cut that off. It's slow and I don't want to waste your time. But we're going to reuse the bottom knock point indicator as our new top knock point indicator. So that's a happy accident for sure. Got it on there. Know where it is. We like it. Now, put your arrow on there. Just like that. Now you see, this is brand new serving. This serving has never seen an arrow knock before. And look at the slip you'll have. So if you're not using 2 knock point indicators upon release, that arrow will do something like this. Maybe very dramatic, maybe minor, but it'll give you a wobble and it's going to wear a groove on the outside edge of your shelf. And I've answered 100 questions over the years on social media of guys saying, I keep getting this groove up here, it's wearing out my rug and I don't know what I'm doing. Well, how many knock point indicators do you have? Well, what do you mean? I just have 1 above the arrow. 2. Use 2, you have no troubles. We need to make 2. So here's what we do. Just wheel off. This is BCY 3D serving. Just a piece of string. Find a knife here. Gotta have knives on you. Okay. Just cut off, I don't know, got 2 feet or so of it. And I leave the arrow right on there so I know where to put my knots. And you don't need any of those fancy super duper knots with that you just slide up and down the string. It's unnecessary. Just about every, now, pay attention. Just about every single bow you'll have, unless it's something really wonky, is going to shoot the same way, with the same tune, with your arrow at a given location as in reference to 90 on the string. All my bows, and I've got lots of bows, and they all set up the same way. Now, if you change your arrow diameter significantly, that will change your knock point indicators. That being said, I shoot the same arrows. I shoot these Oriani arrows. They're all, I forgot the diameter now. But anyway, so all my tunes are the same. I don't have to change anything. I know what this is going to do. So you just tie a knot on one side of the string, and then do, when I say string, I mean bowstring, do it on the other side of the string, and then you just flop back and forth. See what I'm doing? One on top, one on bottom. No pattern, no strategy. You're just building a big wad of material on your bowstring so that arrow doesn't slide up and down. And you can do like 5 or 6 of these knots, and you'll see that you're now covering like 3/16 of an inch of serving, because your knot is working its way down, you know what I mean? So it's getting bigger and bigger. And once it starts getting big enough to hold something, then you can start doubling up your knots. So like we're creating a second layer. And we put these on tight. And back to what I was saying with these, people want to do adjustable knots and everything. I don't need adjustable knots. I know where all my knock point indicators are because all my bows are this set up the same. My arrows are the same diameter. You don't need to adjust that knock point indicator. Not once you already know what you're doing. In the very beginning, when you dump the bow out of the box and you have some brand new arrows and all that, yeah, you're going to have to do a little adjustment. But generally speaking, the bottom of my top knock point indicator, the bottom of the top knock point indicator is always 1/2 inch to 5/8 of an inch above a 90. Always. Friends, and I'm talking hundreds of bows. Hundreds of bows. And they're all the same. And it's not just for funsies. I've got the trophies to back it up. It's dead fact. Okay. So, well, I need an adjustable knot. No, you don't need an adjustable knot point. Unless you're making big changes, like I said. change in arrow diameter significantly, something like that. All right, so your last knot, just do a double. Bring it down like that. Now, here we go. Take a knife, cut off your serving, leave like 1/4 of an inch extra, okay? This is a great little knife. I like this a lot. Take your lighter. What you're doing is you're setting it on fire and squishing it out with your finger. And that creates a little plastic melted smear right there, and that knot won't come out. There. See, now I have 3 on there and it kind of looks silly, but this one is going to go. This one is for the elevated rest. This one is for, well, these 2 now are for the shooting off the rug. So here we go. We got it set up. We'll put our square back on there just to make sure. And when you put your square on there, you have these little, see that little, they clip on differently, and some will have like a little bump. This is not a good example. Make sure that your string is tight against the aluminum part of the square. Don't rely on the stamped steel portion of the square. So there we go, and I'm just brushing it. And I'm going to peel off my tape so you guys can see what I mean for numbers. And if you're gonna shoot large diameter cedars or something, yeah, you're gonna need to, your numbers are gonna be a little bit different than mine. So I'll explain it to you and then I'll show it to you. The bottom of the square here corresponds with the bottom line, and then we're 1/8, 2/8, 3/8, 4/8. 4/8 is a 1/2 inch, right? So from this would be perfectly square, but that's not where we are. We are up 1/2 inch. So instead of my arrow being square on the string, it's actually like this, okay? It's up higher than what square would be. And I'm going to show you the numbers now so you can see what I mean. And they might be in reverse, but see what I mean? Oh, there we go, a little bit of reflection right there, that's good. See where I'm at? That line right here on the square, that would be a perfect 90. But we're way lower than that. I'm sorry, higher than that, right? Okay. All right, so got our rug in place. We've got our new rest. I'm sorry, our new plate. It threads out, threads in. It's all Velcro, it's all super quiet. I'm almost 100% sure mine is gonna have to be cranked in all the way, because that's where I had my tune set up with my arrows. Just because I do this doesn't mean your bow will do this either. It depends on your draw length, your draw weight, right? It depends on your arrow spine, your arrow length. It depends on your overall weight of the arrow, and it depends on your tip of your field points. So this is what I shoot. These are the Oriani field points. My Oriani Archery. 500 spines, right? Wraps, 5-inch shield cut feathers, and then I don't even know what kind of knock that is, whatever fits in there. So there we go. So we stick clipper on the bottom. You see what I mean about the arrow being below a 90? Remember I said we're a 1/2 inch above that. So if it were a perfect 90, that's how it would be. But that's not what you want. You want it about a 1/2 inch, okay? About a 1/2 inch under a 90, meaning you got to move that knock point indicators up. Make sure you have 2 so that arrow's captured and arrow knock's captured. And when you draw this bow back, and it doesn't matter if you're 3 under or you're split finger, when you draw back and you release that string, believe it or not, that arrow will go like this. It'll lift right up off of that. Ever so slightly, but it will lift up off that rug. And you can shoot this rug until you're old and gray, and you won't have any wear if you tune a bow like this. you set this up at a dead 90, you're going to wear out your bottom feather, you're going to put a groove in your rug, and you're going to have trouble with your arrow porpoising, meaning flying through the air like this. Okay, so here we go. This is what we have. The back side of it looks like this. Uh-oh, knocked down the lights. So there's our jam nut, right? And you're just gonna, 2 sets of pliers would be the ideal way to lock this thing down. We're just gonna finger tight, okay? It's not going anywhere. That's all it is. And again, I'm selling these guys here, lots of colors, match your bow, plate, can adjust in or out, shoot off the shelf. "26-minute video." Wasn't a 26-minute job. I spent a lot of time just explaining, but you could probably do this on the tailgate of your truck with a lighter, a knife, and a piece of string. 5 minutes, right? 10 minutes, it's easy. Record all your numbers, record all your measurements, and I have a notebook, and I also have an app in my phone, not like a notepad app, and I'll have Grable SST, 500 full length Orianis, 75 grain brass inserts, 200 grain field tips or broadheads, right? So, and then each one of my bows that I shoot, I have all those recorded down. And I don't record my knock point indicator height. Like I said, they're all the same. Whether it's a bear or St. Charles bow, or it's a Don Poppy bow, or Misaki Deer Slayer, or an SST, they're pretty much all the same. Unless you start switching your arrows and getting crazy. So keep your notes. You'll be glad you did. If you have any troubles, let me know. I can help you tune. You can leave a comment here. If you want to buy one of these adjustable plate deals, you can track me down on Facebook under Jeff Nowak, or I run a private group. It's called TBA Group USA. TBA Group USA. Just search it out. It's a private group. I'll have to let you in. You can't just click and join. So, but anyway, there's a couple questions on there too. Make sure you answer the questions. We'll get you set up, get you in. And I run all my string sales, my plate sales. I do custom endless loop strings, a few different archery things. That's not what this is about. But if you need to reach me for those purposes, track me down on Facebook, TBA Group USA. Easy breezy. Get out and shoot, guys. It's fall. It's fun. And there you go. See you later.